I was telling me, you go die this night. Maybe you no want cooperate. You go die this night. You go die this night.
Chidinma was lucky to escape alive because she did not fit the correct profile of the perfect victim the criminals were searching for their sinister intentions.
By the time they were done beating me, it wasn't like that, madam, you know what you go do now? You go cut your breast. I said, okay, sir. He now said, do you have kids? I said, yes, I have kids. He just kept quiet. The next thing I saw was that he told me, okay, oh yeah, get up.
Alone in the night.
This young lady was also lucky because she survived and agreed to share her experience with us.
I've been attacked in this beggar before. I was hit from behind. My phones and everything were collected. And it took me years to be able to stand in beggar and get a car and pick up a cab.
In a daring display of impunity, most of the criminals move around with POS machines for ease of stealing money out of the bank accounts of their victims. Security experts explain that this is very possible, especially with the emergence of new financial outfits who ignore the vigorous security check on customers before opening customer accounts.
A lot of the instances that we've monitored, they actually use the financial systems. Now, the reason for this is commonplace. Number one, we do not have a national database for individuals, Nigerians actually. And more importantly, even the banking system has not put in place infrastructure to reduce the possibility of this from happening. And then secondly, where it happens, to trace the perpetrators, arrest them, and then prevent further crime.
Abuja is Nigeria's seat of government. It is also a bubbling cosmopolitan city that attracts people from every part of Nigeria and even abroad who come mostly in search of economic opportunities. But like many emerging cities facing the challenges of growth, crime has become a major issue. The June 2023 edition of Nigeria Security Report for Beacon Intel, a security consulting firm, shows an increase in crime in not just Abuja but other major Nigerian cities. The FCT Police Command says it is doing its best to fight crime in the territory in order to protect the security and welfare of citizens.
We have created a tactical squad called Anti-One Chance, which they have been charged with the responsibility of these one chance activities to wipe away, in conjunction with the DPOs as well. The DPOs are doing on the divisional level, and this squad that I mentioned, Anti-One Chance, has been deployed also to each division.
The FCT Police Public Relations Officer says the police needs the cooperation of the victims and other citizens in order to tackle this despicable crime called one chance.
Sometimes these modus, they change their modus, though we've identified the modus they are using. But when they know we identify them, they also change their modus. So when if you find yourself as a victim, it's only wise and advisable that you report these incidences to the security agencies.
I actually did not believe that they could do anything about it. That was why I didn't report to them.
Our law enforcement agents that do not see this crime as a major crime. We've been in instances where we've monitored this development on behalf of our clients. We will report the cases by providing the telephone numbers that were used in the crime, the account numbers that were used in the crime. The response you get from the law enforcement is that they have bigger challenges. And this is the effort they will use in stopping this is not what the benefit.
Victims survive and injuries are treated, but the emotional scar takes a very long time to heal.
It took me months, or if not years, to actually recover. And so I'm conscious of where I am because of everybody around me is a suspect.
The one that was repeatedly beating me, I didn't see the one on the front, his face, but the one at the back, I kind of saw his face. So when I see someone that looks like that person, I'll be like, are you sure it's not this man that beat me that night?
Kabiru Adamu says commuters should avoid flagging vehicles along the road. Instead, approved and designated motor parks should be used. Anjum Abdullahi.
Thank you for staying with us, everyone. It's Big Talk here on Global Television. Of course, we're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Incidentally, that report, as interesting and in-depth as it is just a pointer to what we have come to find, especially in recent times. The violent crime called One Chance obviously has contributed immensely to the general insecurity in several major Nigerian cities. In fact, this crime is perpetrated by criminals for the purpose of robbery, kidnapping for ransom, and even harvesting of human parts. In this special report, which you have just seen, our partner correspondent, Dajuman Abdullahi of Gilan News, has been able to clearly show to us how the phenomenon has taken on a very, very frightening dimension. Incidentally, he's here to help shed more light on this and also just leave insights as to not just the impact of this phenomenon, but what can be done, and he would also talk about what motivated him to do this report and how he feels overall about it. Abdullah, it's an interesting time for us as a country, but then it's a pleasure to have you on the show here tonight.
Thank you very much, Uwe. Thank you.
Great. I want you to talk to me about what incentivized you, if you like, to do, because there are several other sort of reports you could have done, but why this one?
I have always been an advocate for safety and welfare. I believe that every Nigerian should be able to pursue happiness in safety, in a safe environment, in a secured environment. And the young lady you saw there was my neighbor. She was my neighbor, and I came to work one day in the office and discovered that she had puffy eyes. She had puffy eyes and she had marks on her body, and I was shocked. And I asked her, what happened? She told me she had been attacked by One Chance. And I sat down and listened to her story, and I was truly shocked. I have been hearing about this crime, incidents of this crime from friends, from associates, secondhand information, but I've never had the opportunity to listen to a victim at very, very close quarters. So somebody you work with in the office is a neighbor that you can relate with, that you look after the welfare of the person, he looks after your own. So coming in the morning and confronting a neighbor who has gone through that kind of ordeal was very shocking for me. I was shocked.
That points out to how you feel about the whole thing. But it's interesting because I've also been able to listen to some audio reports by citizens who say, look, this area, those areas are hotspots for these One Chance criminals. But it raises the concern around how Abuja, the federal capital of Nigeria, has now become sort of a hotbed. What's so peculiar about the federal capital?
Well, look at it this way. Abuja symbolizes Nigeria. If there is security in Abuja, every Nigerian would like to think that there is security everywhere. If there is unity in Abuja, everybody would like to think that Nigeria is unified. So Abuja, and it has been a very safe city for a long time. It has been growing, but it has been very safe. But lately, you can't say the same thing about Abuja because of these violent crimes. Remember, One Chance is just one of the insecurity challenges in the federal capital. So going to address your question specifically, why Abuja? I am sure Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Kano and other cities it is peculiar with big cities. I mentioned it in that report. Cities have always been centers of civilization. They've always been centers of economic opportunities where people come to make a living in search of opportunities. They run away from poverty, coming to cities, hoping to make it. When you have a potpourri, a combination of people coming from different backgrounds and probably with dashed hopes, the El Dorado that they thought they would come into the federal capital and get it, they are not. It takes a lot of effort and self-control not to get engaged in crime. Well, I am not an expert, so I can't explain why people get into crimes. But essentially, I believe that each city, like Lagos, Port Harcourt, they will have their peculiar red areas, red districts, and red zones where there are crimes. But this particular crime became a thing of concern. It's a serious security challenge in the federal capital. I had the opportunity of interacting with the FCT police PRO, Ms. Josephine Ade, a very great lady. She volunteered information and told me so much about what the police is doing. But it looks as if it's overwhelming. Right. That's the way it looks to me. You know, she explained a little frustration about when they discover how they perpetrate the crime, the criminals will change the tactics. So you can see there's a big challenge right there. And then again, victims do not volunteer information. Well, they don't even report it. You can see that Chidinma said she didn't think she could get help from security operatives. And so she didn't report it. But it's important to report because it helps the police, as she had explained in the report, it helps the police to re-strategize how to deal with these criminals, for one thing. Number two, it helps them to to update their database about the incidence of crimes like that. When you don't report it, they don't know. So reporting, I think, is important. Right. Irrespective of whether you think they will help or not, I think you will be helping the national cause to this thing. We are all partners in the progress of Nigeria. You and I, you are a broadcaster, I'm a journalist, you are a journalist, you do some journalism. We are doing our bit by bringing this into, setting an agenda for this so that they will hear. People may not have the opportunity to speak out, and so that people in position of responsibility will listen and do something about it. So this is a medium whereby we can discuss that and bring it into the limelight. So it's very important. Everybody is doing his bit. We are helping the police. Police is doing its job. And I think victims should do their part by also reporting. It's very important.
To the best of my knowledge, you are not a trained therapist, but it's also important that we talk about the sociological aspects of this crime, because when it's all said and done, there will be trauma. Some people will say PTSD, I mean post-traumatic stress disorder.
That's right.
I'm looking at Chidinma from this brilliant report that you have put together. I've never met her till this point, but then I can connect with the pain that's associated with this kind of experience. Let's talk about those for a minute from a general standpoint.
Well, first of all, it was a very harrowing experience for me meeting these victims. These two people I highlighted are just, a tip of the iceberg. I've listened to so many other people who didn't want to bring their story, who didn't want to put it on camera, they didn't want to share it. And that, I believe, is part of the stress. That is part of what victims go through. That is part of the trauma. You don't want to relive it. And it's like when you share it, they believe it's like everything comes to them afresh, and they don't want to go through that because it's a terrible experience. So many, can you imagine a criminal telling you he's going to cut off your breast, a lady, cutting off a lady's breast, we're going to cut your breast. And the reason they didn't cut her breast was because she had a child. She had a child, and they didn't want somebody that has given birth.
Okay.
Otherwise, they would have harvested.
So the story would have taken a very
drastic dimension. I was speaking to another member of an NGO who has worked with victims.
I'm sorry. I would have to bump in on you real quick.
Okay.
We're taking a quick break, everyone. When we return, we'll just talk a little about this before rounding up. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. So I'm just going to talk to you as we begin to wrap up now in a few minutes about what more we can do as citizens, because ultimately we are first Nigerians before anything else. We can't leave this altogether to the law enforcement agencies themselves. What can Nigerians individually and as a collective do to help also mitigate all of these? Because like you said, these criminals are very dynamic in their approaches.
Well, I believe that as journalists, as broadcasters, bringing this into the limelight is one way of raising awareness.
Right.
People are aware, and when people are aware, it will help them to become alert. When people are alert, they have some kind of a consciousness about what to do, about precautions. Be careful when you get into a vehicle and there is a central lock and it is locked. The red light should start flashing. When the security expert has already given us one, he said, do not, if you don't have to, please don't flag what they call alarm. You know, you one chance, you flag. At the moment you jump in.
You can't be sure.
That's another thing. You can't be sure, but avoid it. Go to a park. Go to a registered and recognized park, and board a vehicle.
Right.
So that is another thing. And there are one other thing I think that can be done is, we have already talked about that of reporting. When you report the crime, you are helping the police to put up a kind of an update on the frequency of the crime and the rate at which it is occurring in the city. Last but not the least, I believe that everybody should be concerned. Everybody should be concerned because safety, you know, I mean, what else? What can you do when there is insecurity?
Right.
You pursue happiness when you're secured in your environment, in your house, in your place of work, along the work, and you know, nobody is an island. You can't stay at home and say you are not going out because there is crime. So, and if you will go out there, I think you will be helping the police, you will be helping to curb to take a bite out of crime by being alert and being conscious of what is going on. And I believe that NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and civil society should get involved in this thing, and get involved in sensitizing people, raising awareness, and if possible, working with law enforcement agents. You know, contribute.
I can imagine that. I mean, it's a whole lot of work we can do together to help mitigate this. And I'm also excited and very optimistic, knowing that on the 21st of August, when ministers were inaugurated, the Federal Capital Territory, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has said with emphasis how that fighting insecurity in the nation's capital is one of his top-tier priorities. And he went on to talk about how that these criminals also try to get ahead of law enforcement, and he emphasized that he realizes the need to make very substantial investments in helping to equip and empower those who are on the front lines, as it were. I mean, the police, the NSCDC, and the likes. I want to say a very big thank you to you, Abdullahi Danjuma, veteran journalist, and the mind behind these reports you just saw a while ago. We'll continue to talk about these issues in the days, weeks, months ahead. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
And that's what we're leaving it, everyone. Thank you so very much for being a part of it. I'm Uyag Mofwegbe here at Global Television. Enjoy the rest of your evening.